Welcome to the 21st episode of Explained, where I'll be telling you that trees are great. They're tall, green, make oxygen, and just generally look nice. But there are things trees cannot do. They can't write a concerto, or use tools, or own property, or... Wait, what's that? What? Oh, come on, that's just silly. Sitting on a street corner in the suburbs of the third best Athens in the world, in the second best Georgia, in the first best United States, fine, I'll give you that one, sits a white oak tree that may or may not own itself. And we're not talking about foliage laying down savage comebacks on itself, but instead legally having ownership of itself and the land it sits on, which is a very, very strange concept indeed. I mean, apes can't even own photographs they take. How the hell did a tree, which can't even communicate or walk, come to own itself? Well, as seemingly traditional in this series, we're gonna have to go back to Victorian times. Well, at least it isn't another island or a ship that ends up sinking, so hooray, I guess. The local tale starts with a man called William Henry Jackson, who might be a colonel or doctor or both or neither depending on who you ask. According to the story, which has travelled down the generations, William spent his childhood under the oak tree and as a result picked up many fond memories of said tree. So in 1823, William Jackson came up with a measure to stop any negative alteration to the tree and deeded the following. Witnesseth that said W.H. Jackson, for and in consideration of the great affection which he bears said tree, and his great desire to see it protected, has conveyed, and by these presents do convey, unto the said oak tree, entire possession of itself, and all land within 8 feet on all sides. So yeah, nobody could tamper or cut down the tree now as they didn't own it. The tree was protected. Or was it? These things aren't that simple. Can a tree legally own property? According to local Georgian common law, the group being given property or objects has to have the ability to accept said objects or property. So, to cut a long story short, no, a tree can't own itself, stupid, it's a tree. Except everyone went with it, and have gone with it for over a century, nearly 2, and counting. So yeah, you could argue from a de facto point of view, the tree does own itself, because everyone has acted like it does, instead of a de jure point of view where it must be written in law. But I don't know for sure, I'm not exactly willing to spend years in a law school studying state law for a very specific part of a country 4,000 miles away that I've never been to, but I digress. Okay, so we've got that sorted out how the tree came to own itself. But no, because maybe not. The first reported story of the whole deed it to itself was in 1890, and that's the whole reason why we know the wording of the deed or the history of the tree, which supposedly happened 67 years earlier, which isn't the most primary of sources. But it gets stranger. The author of the article was anonymous and claimed to have seen the original deed, which doesn't exist anymore and no solid evidence of which exists. Adding to this, it's unsure if William H. Jackson actually spent his childhood in Athens, which is yet to be confirmed, though he definitely did own the land and therefore the tree at one point. Not the most solid story, but hey, de facto argument could be used again, and also it seems more unlikely for someone to enter into such a weird scheme for a seemingly no benefit than someone trying to protect childhood memories. Occam's razor at it again. Occam's razor is a philosophical device used to try and find the truth from several scenarios, and it posits that one that requires the fewest assumptions is probably true. It's very useful. That's not the point though. By this point, the history of the white oak that may or may not own itself is hazy and a bit messy, but hey, it probably can't get any more complicated, can it? Can it? Yeah, you can't tell I'm smiling at the moment, but I am, because yes it can. Yes it can. This is not the tree that was deeded to itself, or even reported to be deeded to itself. You see, by 1910, wood rot and erosion of soil was evidently hurting the tree pretty badly, not only helped by the fact it was probably 300 years old at that point. In a storm in late 1942, sadly the tree fell, but not wanting to get rid of what by that point had become a cherished local landmark, a new sapling was grown from an acorn from the original tree, the son of the tree that owned itself, or the daughter, or hold on. Son, whatever. It was dedicated by the mayor of Athens, not that Athens, and today, the son of the tree that owns itself sits on a street corner, with plaques and markers surrounding the land boundary it supposedly owns. It's become a regional landmark, and nobody has challenged the ownership of the circle of land, 16 feet in diameter. Provided you believe a tree can own property, and the deed actually existed, and a tree can inherit without a will, it's doing pretty good for a tree. Or two. So, that's about it. I know it's quite a short subject, but to be honest, if I went on any longer, I would just be dragging it out, and I don't want to ruin the entire video by dragging out a 5-minute topic into a 12-minute video. I wouldn't want that. So, yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. Just a heads up, I've got a cool new subreddit, you should go and check that out, and also I am quickly approaching 1,000 subscribers, as in by the time my next video is uploaded, it will be 1,000 subscribers. So yeah, that's really cool, thanks guys. I've already got something planned for that if you've watched my 500 subscribers video. Speaking of which, this is your last chance to go and write down literally any question you want to ask me. I'm going to answer every single one of them, so go do that thing. So yeah, that's basically everything, and I suppose it's just time for me to say thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.